Clubhouse. If you're not on Clubhouse, well, maybe you want to get on there and join the Thursday mornings Boss Babes 10 a.m. chat every Thursday. Anyways, some friends of mine host it, Megan and Lauren, and I really appreciate that room. I wanted to just chat with you guys a little bit about rejoicing when troubles come your way, as James chapter 1 says, and let me read it to you because I find it really hard to rejoice when troubles are coming my way. But the reason that it's hard to rejoice is because the trouble is filling your mind and filling your heart, and that's just really what I believe. In chapter 1 of James, verse 2, it says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing." It goes on. James is such a good book to read and to just meditate on and sit with the Lord in. What I want to bring up is the fact that when we hear rejoice in the troubles when they come our way, I really feel like it translates in our hearts and our minds that the troubles and the pain and the suffering that we're going through doesn't matter. And I just want to bring that to the forefront of this conversation, that that the pain and the suffering that you're going through in your life, whenever there's trials or there's just troubles, troubles can also just mean accusation after accusation, being accused of something you did, of having done something wrong when you didn't do anything at all. I had a lot of that actually in my younger years and in my childhood, growing up. I felt the accusations of the enemy. I mean, they come through people, okay? But the people are not the enemy. We don't war against flesh and blood, but against princes and principalities. As believers, we know this. What it comes down to is what we believe about God. And being able to rejoice in our suffering comes from knowing who he is and what he's going to do about it. I have a couple of stories. I mean, here's one story. When I was going to a church at one point earlier on in my life, there was the pastor of the church would constantly talk about, I just lost my train of thought with that story and how it relates to what I'm talking about. So we're going to move on, and I'm going to ask the Lord to guide us on this conversation because I really think it's important. Lord, we thank you for this time. I ask you to guide this conversation, to be in the midst of it, Lord, that your heart would be seen and your mind would be shown and your design for us would be made known in Jesus' name. So that's something that I want to talk about, is the connection. God's intention for us was not ever to live in trials and tribulations and have trouble. His intention was unbroken and undefiled connection with him. If you go back to Genesis and to the garden, God created man in his own image for relationship, that he would have relationship with us. And so when I think about rejoicing in our troubles, it's really about understanding that it was never God's intention for you to have all of this pain and suffering. However, he knows about it. He knows it's coming. He knows what decisions you're going to make. And he's so good that he allows you to make choices. Some of the troubles that come into your environment and come into your realm of having to work it out, those are caused from other people or just circumstances out of your control. So for instance, sickness and disease, okay, that's part of the fall, and just lots of unable to pinpoint where it's coming from decisions made by man. That's what I believe. And so when we have sickness or disease come upon our bodies or touch our friends and family around us, then the question then comes in, why? I think the better question, because we all kind of know that trouble came when Adam and Eve chose to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so there is a place and a reason that we can just keep falling back on, because that's the beginning. That was the beginning of the ending of time. So I hope this is making sense to someone. But what I'm trying to say is that when we believe that something is our fault or it's not our fault, it makes it either easier or more difficult to take the thing to the Lord. And so I guess what I'm trying to highlight is that, for instance, if I get myself into debt with credit cards, then I feel the responsibility. That's something I need to take care of. And I'm not going to ask God for help because it's my fault and I got myself into this trouble. No. Wrong thinking, okay? If my child gets herself into trouble, and she knows that she made the choices and got there, but she's really not able to fix it on her own, or she really just desperately wants and needs help, I want her to come to me for help. So what I'm saying is that God is available and wants to help us in the midst and make our troubles and our trials serve us rather than take us out. Okay, so whether we created it ourselves or it is something that happened to us out of our control, I do think that it just automatically makes our mind think differently about, whether it's okay to take it to God or not. Just talking in the conversation today with my friends over on Clubhouse. You can find that Clubhouse recording, by the way, on YouTube. Maybe I'll post that in the comments. But all that to say is, one of my friends talking about being diagnosed with cancer, and I'm going, her response was really, really, to just go straight to the Lord. Well, I had that same thing happen, but with my husband, and it wasn't cancer, it was bacterial meningitis, and he was by all means and by all experts, he should have died. Okay. In that situation, it's easy to let go of the responsibility in one sense for, getting the person out of that trouble or getting yourself out of that trouble that is happening to you and upon you. Because you literally know that you have no control over it, versus the previous mentioned trouble of having created a hole for yourself, dug the hole and jumped in it, and now you're expecting God to get you out. Let me tell you, he still will help you. So I just want to encourage you that rejoicing in trials and tribulations, and when troubles come, it's really related to our belief about who God is, and knowing that he, number one, did not create us with the intention of us going through suffering and pain. He actually created us mostly for unbroken connection with him, and all of history has now been about closing the gap between God and man and reminding us of that one thing, that you come into his presence. And so that you remain in him and abide in him. So I guess I just want to encourage you that if you are going through anything, whether it seems menial or huge, whether it is small or big, whether it is clearly your doing of your own self. There are so many people that have, chosen, for instance, addiction, and God has delivered them because then they decided they wanted something different. Okay. So all I'm saying is that cry out to God, whatever your circumstance or situation is, because he's willing and he's able, and it's his design for you to have unbroken connection with him. And so nothing that you're doing or that you or that is happening to you can separate you from the love of God, meaning that he is always present, always available, waiting for you to turn to him and ask him for his help and ask him for his involvement. Why not you? Okay. Why not you? Maybe you think you're too broken and you deserve what you're getting in your life. You deserve the circumstances and the situations. Well, guess what? There's not a person alive that doesn't, that the love of God and his sacrifice, Jesus's sacrifice for us, there's not one person that deserves that in that sense. Not one of us have righteousness that, that doesn't look like filthy rags. Okay. All of us have fallen short of the glory of God. All of us have sinned. Okay. I guess the reason I bring this up all the time is I really think that this is a foundational mindset battle that we have that keeps us and hinders us from experiencing the fullness of the presence of God every day in our lives. Okay. I love that we go to church. It's a good thing that we go and we interact with the community of believers and the bride of Christ on Sundays. But if you have just been going to church every Sunday and you have been wondering how you can live Monday through Saturday that same life, then this is how. Connection, communication with God. Continue to pray and to worship and to read the word on your own on a daily basis. Okay, so to wrap it up, I just want to say that it's not God's intention for you to stay in that place. It's God's intention to bring something beautiful out of your suffering. That does not mean that he created the suffering for you so that you could learn this lesson and he could test you. Some testing the Lord does, but let's be clear that a lot of the stuff that we're going through that's painful and just hard and difficult is not God trying to teach you something, but rather God is able to use all that you've been through and everything that you've chosen and everything that's happened to you from other people's choices to make life better for you. He can make it good. He can make it for your good, and he can bring revelation out of it. And so we do need to just look at it that way and going into life and every day, believing that God is going to show you himself and show you the benefits and the revelation that you can get from daily living and just encounters is how we move forward. I hope this has made sense and helped somebody today. I was really inspired by the conversation I had, and so I'm very thankful for being able to interact with other people that believe and that have witnessed God's goodness in the land of the living, that have gone through hard stuff and come out the other side and see God's hand in things. If you are following on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit the bell to get notified of future videos like this. If this is helping you, share it. And then one last thing I want to mention is that I do have a Facebook group for believers who are daring to be activated in their faith and to walk in another level of the Spirit where you are staying connected every day. So let's build a community around that desire and that design to close the gap between God and man, and to actually daily surrender to his purpose and his plan, so that we can move together and make a movement of people walking in the Spirit. Okay, guys, love you so much. Love to hear from you. If you have anything to say, personal message me or comment on these videos and we'll get chatty. Bye, guys.